Hey everyone, this is John Feneck with the Feneck Commodities Report, and with me today is my YouTube partner, Don Durrett, founder of goldstockdata.com. And Don, welcome to the show.
Yeah, ready to do another one, John.
Great. We've got a really good guest with us today who I met last year at a conference in Sweden. Saf Dhillon is going to join us in about 10 minutes, who is a CEO of multiple companies, but today we're talking about Questcorp Mining, and we'll get to that in about 10 minutes. Don, let's talk macro. You and I are going to be speaking at Beaver Creek, Colorado, literally 6 days from now, September 9th. Our presentation for those that are attending is going to be from 9:50 in the morning to 10:40 in the morning. So 50 minutes of Don and I with our back and forth instead of just 10 minutes here. And I hope you join us. If not, please go to precioussummit.com and take a look at that probably a week or so after our presentation. That'll be posted there for free. Don, a lot to unpack. Gold, I think we should talk about first, and how silver has exploded higher. I saw in your comments last week to your followers, you were talking about, you know, how silver is the little sis and does things on her own time. And, you know, now we've seen silver confirm gold, which is pretty cool. And we're seeing $40 price action here multiple days in a row. What's your take on the metals as we speak?
Yeah, so we needed kind of three things to happen now as gold silver miners, investors, if you will. So I'm not an annual investor. I'm after big alpha. And so I need gold to break out, I need silver to break out, and I need the miners to break out. Now, we've had gold broke out actually in 2019. I mean, we've had a gold bull market for quite a while, but silver joined the party this week when it got above 40. So the margins have absolutely been terrible for silver until recently. We had to get to at least $35 silver before these silver miners could even breathe. And now we got to 40. When you get to 40, we're at 30% margins here. So I think that average break even for silver miner about $27. So at $40, it's about 30%, 32%. So today we're at $41 silver. So the silver miners finally joined the party. So that was something we needed to happen. The HUI broke out, which is, you know, over 500. Today's at 527. So the ducks are almost all aligned, but we're so close to everything being aligned that I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, that you have to get on the train. You can't wait now. And you know, once silver joined the party here, you have to get on. Yeah, you can leave a little bit of dry powder. We are going to get a correction, absolutely. But we still are missing one duck. There's still one duck that just out there hey, come on, man, join the party kind of thing. And that final duck is the S&P 500. We need that to stop rising. That's the final piece in the puzzle. Because what we want is what happened from 2002 to 2007. If you go back there and you look, in 2000 we had the dot-com bubble pop, and then 2001 we had 9/11, and that two combination basically just destroyed the stock market. And the stock market was pretty much flat from 2002 to 2007. And during that period, gold outperformed the stock market, and the miners went nuts. I mean, if you look at the HUI, it just pretty much went straight up for 5 years. And gold, it started at $250 at that time, and it trended higher. And that's what we need. We don't need the stock market to crash. But what we need is the S&P to stop going up. We need that money. So there's $63 trillion in U.S. stock markets and $250 trillion plus in global assets in stocks and bonds. We need that money to come into the miners. Not very much, just a little tiny bit. But if the stock market stops rising, that money will flow into the miners. For instance, the Newmont is up 100% for the year. 100%. 102% today. That's what it's up year to date. Year to date, up 102%, and nobody's buying it. But trust me, if the stock market goes flat, people are going to go, okay, what's working? Well, gold stock's up 100%. Give me some of that. right? So that's what we're waiting for. That's that final duck. When that final duck gets in that alignment, that's when these miners are really going to run. And that's why the miners are up. You know, we were at the bottom. We're at the bottom 200 HUI, and now we're at 500. So it looks like, wow, we're ripping. You know, bull market. Well, guess what? We're only in the third inning here. It's still really, really early. That final duck hasn't even joined the party yet.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Don. Excellent assessment. I actually just said on a podcast last week that we're in the third inning. So why do I say that? Well, if you look at a chart of GDX, a long-term chart, I think 66.98 is overhead resistance. But if you look at GDXJ, it's shocking. Like we're trading around 83, 84 GDXJ right now as we record this. I mean, it was 194. I think I could be getting that wrong. Let me see if I can find that number. Gosh, because it was shocking when I looked at the long term chart. We're nowhere close, in other words, right? And I memorized the SIL one, SIL, which was 92. We're trading at 60 today, which is still very elevated in this recent move. But when you look at a longer term chart, you see that it's not that elevated, right? SILJ, being the small cap silver stuff, only came out in early 2013. So we didn't capture the 0809 crisis or the 1112 move up in SILJ. It's very hard to kind of assess, but that high was around $22 and we're trading at 18 and change today. So, you know, there are some like GDX and SILJ that are close to their, you know, highs. However, there are others like GDXJ that are just nowhere close. And you pointed out, Don, like the HUI, I don't have that number memorized, but I'm sure you do. What was the all-time high on the HUI?
635. So it's actually getting closer and closer. Okay. But my target for the HUI, my minimum target is 1,500, and I think we're going to go to 2,000. So I have a range of 1,500 to 2,000. So if it doubles from here, I'm expecting everything to double and then double again. So we double from here to 1,000, then double again to 2,000. That's kind of what I'm expecting. So that gives you a three-bagger in the HUI, three-bagger in the majors. And that's kind of what I'm expecting. So I think 1,500 is a very conservative target. 2,000 is kind of what I'm hoping to get to. But I mean, another number, I mean, if we look at some of these upside, is silver. So if you take silver at $49 and you adjust it for inflation in 2011, it's 70. So the real all-time high is, for me, is minimum for silver is minimum 70. Well, the gold adjusted for inflation, all-time high was like $2,700. Gold's been breaking out above. Last year it basically broke out an all-time high on gold, and it's been just ripping ever since. Got into that blue sky. So silver isn't even close now. We can't really use $49 in 1980 because of the Hunt brothers, but I think a legitimate number would be about 32 or 34 if the Hunt brothers wouldn't have manipulated silver. I think 30. You can use 32 or 34, and if you convert that for inflation, it's higher than 70. So 70 is like a minimum target. But 1980, if you do $850, I think it was 2,700. So gold is broken out. Silver is still early innings for silver. It hasn't gotten there yet. And I think I'm using $100 silver as my target for silver miners. And the silver miners are all cheap. The only one that isn't is Fresnillo, which has gone absolutely bonkers. Fresnillo is at $28. I was saying earlier this year that Fresnillo is the cheapest of the Mormons, the prettiest silver miner. I was saying that. And it's just been on fire this year. Trading at $28. It was up $2 today, up 9%.
As a large cap.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But it's the only one that really isn't cheap anymore. But all the others are still cheap. But if you use, that's at $100 silver. I think we're going to 125, because if you use $5,000 silver and you do a 45 GSR, it's 125. I think 125 is the number. If you use 125 silver, then Fresnillo still is cheap. So I don't really see a path here where we don't trend a lot higher. If you this is a whole different discussion. But if you look at all the macro factors that are helping gold right now, the windows that are back at such an extent that it's almost impossible for gold not to go a lot higher, not a little bit higher, but a lot higher.
Interesting. Don, why don't we pause our macro, and you and I are going to get the opportunity to talk for almost an hour on stage next week. So why don't we bring on our guest, Saf Dhillon, and talk Questcorp Mining today. So Saf joins us from Canada. The ticker on Questcorp is QQCMF in the States and QQQ, a nice easy one to remember, in Canada. Saf, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, John, thanks for having me. Hi, Don.
Hey, Saf, thanks for coming on the show.
Saf, would you be kind enough to give us a 7 to 10 minute overview of Questcorp?
Sure. I'll try and even break it down even shorter than that. But Questcorp really is essentially it's a less than 2-year-old company. I'm actually one of the founding directors of the company. We came to list in December of 2023. And I think we've actually, I was going to say, I think our timing can't be more fortunate. We came to list with a Canadian asset on Vancouver Island called the North Island Copper Property. And this property basically is in the vicinity, less than 7 kilometers from BHP Billiton's former copper Island copper property that actually has been shut down for a number of decades. But at one point, it was actually one of the largest copper mines in Canada, if not North America. And since we've come to trade, we've also seen one of our neighbors called North Island Copper. NCX, I believe, is their ticker. They have gone, I believe, in that time, in 2 years, from a less than $50 million market cap through the drill bit. They've actually grown their company. I believe they now have a multi-million ounce polymetallic discovery. Their market cap, I believe, is about 350 plus Canadian. So this area has turned into a real hotbed of activity. And but what we also have been able to do, just earlier this year, we announced that we had signed an LOI with a Canadian company called Riverside Resources. Riverside is a well-known project or prospect generator. They've been around for about 20 plus years, primarily focused in Mexico, although they do have some great gold assets in Ontario. We ended up signing an LOI, like I said earlier this year, came to a definitive agreement. We have 4 years. Questcorp has 4 years to earn in 100% on Riverside's most prospective gold project called La Union Gold Project. This project actually is situated in the Sonora Gold Belt of Mexico. So it's just below Arizona, and it's part of, I guess, one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific, mineral producing regions in all of Mexico. We've got 4 years to earn in 100%. Part of the terms are we have to pay Riverside $100,000 cash. It's $25,000 CAD per year. First payments, of course, have already been made. Riverside will earn in up to 19.98% of Questcorp. And our first year minimum, I guess, project expenditures are $1 million Canadian. And we are on track to actually fulfill that first year's requirement. So I guess what I'd like to say is that from a less than 2-year-old startup, we've gone from having one prospective copper asset to having now two, if you want to call it, two horses in the race. We've got a great gold, potentially polymetallic project in La Union, and of course the copper asset on North Vancouver Island.
Excellent. And you had some news today I saw on your Vancouver Island property. Could you address that?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So we have been waiting for the past couple of months. As you know, sometimes it takes a little while to get permits, but we just announced today that we were just awarded the permit to begin the initial work on the North Island Copper property. Plans are probably going to be initially to start with an IP survey. The property's been previously drilled. Historically, I believe it's been just under half a dozen holes. Two of these holes hit some copper kicks. I believe it was 0.2%, one of the best holes, over 20 meters. And the plans are really as soon as possible, secure the funding, and get a drill bit turning on this property. There's a lot of activity. This is a very mining friendly region, mining friendly part of British Columbia. Infrastructure's in place, water, electricity, talent, everything's there. So we're raring to get going there, John.
Okay, great. So you mentioned North Isle Copper and Gold at
NCX, yes.
NCX. You mentioned that they are roughly a 350 million market cap. What's your market cap right now?
Well, we started out with about a $750,000 CAD market cap, and I believe currently we're trading at about 10 to 12 million.
Okay. When I look aerially, it looks like they're pretty close to you. How many kilometers away would that project
The
be?
Well, actually, their project is closer, but their project is an extremely large footprint, and the discovery, they've actually got a couple of deposits on their project. They have, I think, the furthest project is about 15 kilometers to the northwest. And then on the other side, we have BHP's former producing mine, less than 7 kilometers away. So we're almost kind of sandwiched in between the two. So I think, if it was nothing else, it was a close closeology play, but we're not going to be sitting around and just waiting for our neighbors to keep succeeding. We want to get to work and, obviously have a proof of concept, so to speak.
Right. And so that's your Canadian project, which is copper heavy. Let's talk
That's correct.
about La Union because it seemed like the stock really responded to the news. You had put out some news, I think December of last year, and then you did a financing around that time, and kind of surprised the market by raising almost 3 million Canadian. And this was not in the kind of hot market that we have today. And the stock just really seemed to respond and get a new life. And what's cool about the chart is that it hasn't given back much of those gains at all. So it's as Don and I like to see, creating another level up. We don't like to see charts that hockey stick because we can't get positioned. So this is something that's continually moving on good volume since that financing. Talk about that project. Is Don has a specialty in gold and silver, and I know you're drilling right now. Is there anything you could share with us that isn't non-public?
Sure. Yeah. And actually, John, I just wanted to add to that point. I think you were just talking about the financing. I've been in the industry now for about 20 plus years, and I've seen all kinds of companies with great projects not succeed. And, it's usually a number of factors. And I think what we've tried to do a little bit different is, we're trying to be really careful of, the investors, especially the early stage investors, because this is where the high risk capital is raised. And I think we wanted to find investors that basically had the same kind of mindset as us, the board and management. And we're looking here to build something. Historically, my background, when I first got involved in the industry, I helped take a $2 million market cap renewable energy company from just basically old abandoned DOE wells in Idaho to close to a $500 million market cap because we actually built something. We built geothermal power plants. And I think that's the same kind of mentality I try to go into everything I'm involved in. Everybody, of course, wants to have a successful stock or a share price. We all want to see it go up. But I think that if you build a foundation, a solid foundation, and you're actually building something of value, I think your share price is going to reflect that eventually. And I think that's the way I think we like to see how this story is going. And like you said, we did the financing at 6 cents, looking to raise 1.5. We ended up raising 2.7 million Canadian. And we now currently have about 73 million shares issued and outstanding. And close to 80% of that is held by insiders, management, friendlies, and really two very strong investment advisors from the US as well, who kind of have given us a 3 to 5 year window. So I think that's really good to start out of the gate like that. And that's one thing I just wanted to stress, that I think we've got really strong supportive shareholder base. And then you were just asking me about La Union and the drilling. Well, we actually started Riverside Resources, as I might have mentioned, is the operator on La Union. They've been involved, as I said, in Mexico for 20 plus years. This La Union project is their best gold asset. They've actually consolidated 7 separate assets over the last roughly 7.5 years. There's been 2.5 million spent on this property, but a drill bit has never pierced the ground until now with us, with Questcorp. And that drill bit started turning in in August. And it's currently turning on the property as we speak. And the focus on this project, historically, it has produced 50,000 ounces of gold. But there's also been, I believe the grades were as high as from 7 grams per ton, high as 20 grams. I believe it's produced over 300 grams per ton of silver, and there's some lead and zinc is there as well. 10% to 20%, I think it was for the lead, and zinc about under 7%, 5 or 6. So I think we're on the, hopefully on the potential of a new discovery. That's what we're aiming for, and then, of course, to build on that.
Okay, that's great. And before I turn it over to Don, I just have one other question about La Union, because Don and I have interviewed 2 guys like yourself running companies in Sonora, Silver Tiger, as well as Sonora Gold. Both of those guys are in Sonora State, and they both speak very highly of what's happening since Scheinbaum got into office October 1st of last year. Is that sort of the same vibe you're getting from Riverside?
Oh, 100%. And, I think John Mark Stouty, who's the president, CEO of Riverside, like I said, he's been there for 30 years, actually, but 20 through Riverside. I don't think I've seen a more bullish technical geologist. And even when there was a lot of noise when the new president came in, John Mark was very, very clear in his understanding of what's going to be happening on the ground. He has a pulse with the locals, the state, and of course at the higher levels. So I think we've got full confidence in their operational skills, and they've got a great team. And I think I agree with all those sentiments from our peers.
Good. Okay. Good to hear. Don, I'll pass it over to you.
Hey, Saf. First question is on the North Island copper. I was looking at it. It looks like a fairly small property. I have it around 350 hectares. What's the size of it?
Yeah, Don, that's about right. And the thing is, I believe it's about 7 skarns. You're correct. It is a bit of a small property, but it's got, like I said, some historical drilling. It had some really good showings. And, again, this is how we listed the property, but I think it's starting to turn out that there's going to be some real serious potential there.
Okay. Now let's move to La Union. That's actually pretty exciting property. It's pretty good size. Over 2,000 hectares, 2,600, I think. So
That's correct.
It's pretty good size property, and you have some pretty good drill targets based on the surface samples. One good drill hole in your company could definitely take off. So you're definitely a company to watch. My question is really around this agreement that you have with Riverside Resources. You have an option to get 100%, and then they acquired 20% of your company, and you said they were
That's
the
correct.
operator. So you have the option for 100%.
That's correct.
And then you're paying for, since you have the option, you're paying for the drilling, but you said they're the operator?
That's correct.
That's kind of unusual. So you're paying them to drill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've had a relationship, I think, with Riverside. We've looked at some projects in the past, and John Mark has a great name. He's got a great reputation as a geologist. I think there's a number of well-known investors, institutional investors that have actually, gone to John Mark for his independent advice or evaluation. And, I think there's something to be said for having the boots on the ground turnkey operation. For us, if we were to acquire this project 100% and not have them come on as an operator, we would have to start from scratch. We'd have to find some geologists. We'd have to maybe move somebody down there. But they've got an office. They're based out of Hermosillo. They've got a great track record. And, we didn't walk into this blindly. We, of course, did our own due diligence, even though there was a relationship. And, there's a small management fee. So I think it was a win-win situation. Riverside's looking for us to make a discovery. They were going to make a discovery on their own potentially. And I think now it's a positive on both sides.
Right. No, I'm just pointing out the fact that it's an unusual relationship. It's almost like two JVs partnering up, two project generators partnering up. And they're like, okay, we'll take part of your company and then we'll drill it. Our value, if we find gold, our value will transfer into your company and then we'll own part of it. It's an unusual relationship.
Well, if you take a look at Riverside, you have to understand, I think some of their shareholders have been involved or invested in Riverside for 20 years, and I don't think their market cap has really fluctuated. So I think it's kind of getting the best of both worlds. We needed a strong technical team in-house in Mexico. They needed a strong marketing or promotional team, if you will. And I think this was kind of a good marriage for both sides.
Right. You got a good deal. I mean, you keep 80% basically. You get 100%.
100%, yeah.
You get 100%, but they own a big chunk of your company.
Right. So it's in everybody's best interest to do well.
Right. So normally, Riverside Resources is a project generator. Normally,
that's right.
Normally, again, those are the companies that keep the 20% of the project and then they drill it and then, they give it to somebody else to drill and they'll keep 20 and they'll give it to somebody else to drill. So it's kind of what you did. But in this case, instead of keeping 20% of the project, they decided to take 20% of you.
Yes.
So, I mean, the one thing about the project generator model is it can go in a lot of different directions. And in this case, this is the direction it went in. But the one thing that's odd about this whole relationship is the fact that they're a project generator, so they're drilling. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, they're good at it. In some respects, you're also a project generator, but you're taking on this model of marketing. It's like, okay, we'll market. You go drill it. You go find the gold. We'll pay you, and we'll do the marketing. I just wanted to point that out to people that are watching. It's like exactly what is. In a quest, what is Questcorp? What exactly do these guys do again? So I want to point that out because are you actually have geologists that are drilling in North Island?
So we just got the permit. We just announced that today, Don, and we'll be putting a plan together. One of our directors, Tim Henneberry, is a QP. He's a director. He's been, a geologist. He's been a geologist for roughly 40 plus years. He's worked all over the world. He's actually worked in mines, very, very knowledgeable. And I've known him for about 18, going on 20 years. And the thing I like about him is he's kind of like me. He's right to the point. And And yeah, so we do have a geologist, and we work with Riverside. Tim obviously oversees the drilling. We okay everything, so it's not like just that they're doing everything. They show us what their plans are. And what I was going to point to, actually, one of Riverside's most successful recent spinouts is, if you take a look, because that's what they were looking at doing with La Union, is their Capitan Silver. It was their highest potential silver project. And I believe it's gone from a $2 million market cap. I didn't look today, but this week, I believe they hit $100+ million market cap. And so that was their best silver asset potential. And we have their best gold asset. So we're hoping to do a repeat of that.
Do they own, 5-10% of Capitan?
I actually don't remember what their terms were, but I know that they are shareholders there, and they are, I believe, operators there as well.
Interesting.
So
Capitan had a really nice drill hole last week. Very nice.
Yes, that's correct.
So, Riverside's been around forever. I came on the scene in 2004, and they were around then. So yeah, they've been around. They've been around a long time. They're survivors.
2004. That's when I started too.
Really, that's a good omen. So
Yes,
so we'll keep an eye on these 10 drill holes you guys are going to drill. The one last question I had was, you're going to drill 300 meters deep. Why are you drilling so deep?
I believe that's based on the angle, and all these holes, Don. This is the first maiden drill program ever. So I think the plan was to try and do like one hole at one of the main targets, and then move, of course, weather the angle and move the drill pad. So I think it's really going to be more of getting to know the geology through the drill bit. And
that's pretty 300 meters is pretty deep.
Yeah. And that's the way the plan was. I think that is the maximum depth. And I believe, I think one or two that might be closer to 250.
Okay.
But I don't think they're all going to be 300 meters, Don.
Okay.
We'll have more, hopefully, in an updating news release.
Right. They have the potential to find something with drilling that deep. So yeah, we'll look forward to the results.
Sorry, and part of that was this is a potential CRD deposit, and from my understanding, I'm not a geologist, I'm not very technical, but I believe that John Mark was explaining that the potential is for the gold and the CRD deposit, but deeper under these systems, he thinks that there's potential for a much bigger polymetallic system, and that was the reason exactly, yes, for the 300-meter depth.
Yeah, you guys are going for the home run here.
I believe so. That's what we're trying.
All right.
Well, that's good. Saf, you were just starting to say something about a press release. Like, are you planning a series of press releases for the fall to kind of, come out with staggered results?
Yeah, now that we've got the other permit here for the Vancouver Island property, I think that you can expect to see some steady news flow. And, news from Mexico and news from Canada. And hopefully we can have something every couple of weeks. But I think it's going to be exciting times for the company on both fronts for the last quarter of the year.
That's great. And one last follow-up question. You had mentioned about 73 million shares. Is that correct?
Yes, because we've had a handful, just under 4 or 5 million warrants that have been exercised. That financing that we did, there was about 45 million units that were issued. It was a 6-cent financing, as I mentioned, with a 10-cent warrant. And some of those warrants have been getting exercised over the last little while.
Yeah, it makes sense. So with the 73 million, how much of that is in management's hands, people like yourself and insiders? Is around 10%?
10%. Riverside owns about 10%. And then we have, like I said, at least just 2 advisors that own 60%. So that's why I was saying that we have at least 80% that's in very strong and supportive hands.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I got interested in the Q4 of last year when we were talking more about this, is that the share
Yeah.
structure pre-financing was quite tight, but you put it in really good hands, as you had alluded to earlier, so that even though you had to raise some money like any exploration company, you didn't just raise it to raise it, right? You didn't do a broker deal with someone that's going to crush you in 4 months. The
Yeah.
stock has actually done very well, and as I pointed out, maintained that chart, which as a technician we love to see. So good job on that, and continued success.
I was just going to add, prior to this 6 cent raise, we had 15 million shares issued and outstanding, and management insiders were about 70% at that time. So management directors alone. So, obviously we got diluted a little bit or a bit with this big raise, but it all went into friendly hands, like I said. So
That's great.
yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, congratulations on the news today, and we'll look for some more news coming from Mexico as well as the next couple of weeks unfold.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Don.
So, Don, I met Saf a year ago at an international conference, and what he just talked about with the 17 million shares was the first thing that got my attention, right? Like, you and I both love tight share structures, but then when he started telling me, where the bodies were buried in the share structure, I was like, wow, this thing is got torque if gold really starts moving these juniors, which it now finally is. But what was also surprising to the market, I did talk to some bigger investors, and they were saying, wow, I thought he could only raise like 1 million or 1.5 million, because that was what their goal was about 8 months ago, and they raised double that. But they put that in really good hands. So, this is a company that's not going to sell cheaply, which is something that you and I both look for.
Well, the key here, I don't know about the copper. Seems like a fairly small property, but it's in a good location. But I think the key here is going to be the drill results at La Union. So what you want is you want to make sure that they have a discovery. You don't. So that these first holes, I mean, you really want to wait and watch, and you want at least a gram meter hole. Ideally, you want it above 200, but if they have several over 100, that'll be interesting. But if they don't have any above 100, it's a total pass. Now they're going to drill 10 holes, so I would say I would want to see at least 2 holes above 100, or 1 hole over 200. That's the way I would look at this.
Okay.
But if they got like 3 over 100, then they'd have a significant discovery here.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
I'll send you an email on this press release, but I was surprised in preparing for today that when I looked at North Isle, these guys just raised $39.5 million 3 weeks ago.
Well, they have a very large property. If you look at the map, I mean, I don't know how many hectares it is, but it's huge. So North Isle, they own that whole area. I mean, if you look at the size of Questcorp, it's like a little tiny little section compared to North Isle. North Isle is like this big, huge. So they own the whole thing. That's the reason why their 350 million is going up. They have a significant discovery, but they have this huge area to explore on. And Quest just has this little 350 hectare little chunk on the edge. But that's the reason why North Isle is doing so well, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we can't compare market caps at all. I mean, their cap is like 350, as Saf said, and his is around 10 or 11. But the reality is, in a hot market, people start looking at this stuff, right? That's why I pointed it out, is that when you're 15 kilometers away from them and you're 7 away from a past producer on the other side, I love that kind of stuff in a hot market, because eventually it's like, these projects have to go. So they have to get consolidated at some point, right? And that's not going to be this year, but it could be in 2 years. And so when you can buy stuff super cheap now, this thing's trading at 11 cents US as we record this. I think this could go right back to 15 to 20 US where it was just a few months ago. I mean, this is one of those rare stocks that really exploded on heavy volume and kind of now is in that consolidation phase, right? where, I mean, it's a really good entry point to me because you're in a bull market.
Well, the other thing is the risk is extremely high here. If they're going to drill 10 holes, which isn't a lot, and they're going to drill them deep, 200 to 300 meters deep, if they think it's one of their best gold projects, which is interesting, they definitely have some really good surface samples. I mean, it's possible they're going to hit something, but if they don't, if they don't have if one of those 10 isn't a really good hole, then they're in trouble. Their stock price is going to go down, and they're going to have to raise money at a lower valuation. So
Right.
it's a very, very risky. This is one of those ones that you're kind of betting on the geologist being right.
Right. Well, I met John Mark actually in PDAC. And what's unique about this stock is that Riverside and Questcorp have a really solid relationship. They actually do joint presentations sometimes. And that was another thing that, as you know, I mean, management's my first screen, and staff has always been honest with me about, everything good, bad, and ugly. And that's refreshing in junior mining because you have to know where you stand, right? He's never said, "Oh, we're going to be the next North Isle," or "We have this large property." It is what it is, right? But what I thought was cool was that they pivoted away from Canada in Q4 of last year to acquire this Mexican property because they saw the opportunity and were able to get it before things really exploded in price. So hopefully their first round of drill holes here is going to impress. We're going to find out pretty quickly here between September and November.
One thing I found fascinating is when I first started doing this, the normal project generator model is they raise money and drill and find a discovery, and then once they find a discovery, then they JV it out and let the JV partner drill it. So they do the initial drilling, they do the discovery, and they basically come in, or they will option it out and let somebody else drill it. One of those two. But it's unusual for a project generator model to come in and say, okay, you pay us to drill. So it's like, that was interesting. I haven't seen that one before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've met two of the guys at Riverside now. Both have over 25 years experience. Saf's got 20 years in the business. So, this does check boxes for me because I think that people with experience are going to make it work. Again, you can't be sure, but when you look at the jurisdictional risk, I like Canada. I really like Mexico. You and I both own a lot of Silver Tiger and Sonora. Sonora, I don't know if you noticed, but they literally did a raise. They tripled the raise because of so many people interested, and now the stock's trading literally where they did it at 13 US. It went down to 11 US, and it quickly moved right back up. I don't know if you saw that with Guanajuato. Also, they raised 18 to 20 million, and the stock got pummeled last week. I wrote it up at 18 cents US, and I said, guys, I know.
Well, I was a big reason why that stock did well on Tuesday.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I did an interview with the market sniper last week, and it came out on Sunday night. And we talked about Guanajuato. We brought the charts up. I told him, I said, okay, I have a spec. Okay, so what we did was, it was a really good interview. It was 2 hours long. And the second half,
Wow.
we did silver miners. He was interested in silver miners. So I started with Coeur, and then I did Pan American, and then I did Hecla, and then I did Endeavor. I did all the quality names first. And we were done. And I said, whoa, wait, Mark. I go, Francis, wait, let's do one spec stock. Let's get people, these are the quality names. Let's give them one that they can speculate on because people love to gamble. And I told him, I said, bring up Guanajuato. And I showed him the chart, and I told him, I said, this thing's a 5-bagger at $60 silver and a 15-bagger at $100 silver. Now, it's going to do terrible if silver prices stay the same or go down. So you're betting on the silver price. But if silver goes higher, this stock has tons of leverage. Well, the sniper brought the chart up and he looked at it, and and he basically agreed with me. He said, "Oh my goodness, look at this thing." So between the two of us saying this is a great spec bet, that got a lot of plays. The sniper's got a lot of followers. I have a lot of followers, but Tuesday morning that stock just went. So
yeah. It really did.
So yeah,
And it had follow through.
so it had a that interview had a big impact.
It had follow through today. And what's impressive is that this is one of the top volume stocks on TSXB in the mining space typically. So like this isn't like a lot, like a few shares outstanding. This is a lot of shares out.
There's not a lot of silver producers that have a lot of leverage that have, you know, what you're looking for on silver is you're looking for a company that has high cost. So and they don't just necessarily have a good balance sheet, and they're basically beat up. Nobody likes them. It's very cheap, but the price of silver, fixes them. That's what you're looking for. And there's not that many. I mean, you got Guanajuato, you got Silver X, but they only produce 1 million ounces. And you got Impact Silver, they only produce 1 million ounces. There's not that many choices. I just talked
to Silver X yesterday. I think something's going to be positively announced there. I just got a different vibe from the team. Like the stock really has been responding this week. I don't know if you noticed. It's AGXPF for anyone that wants to take a look.
I actually I DM'd him yesterday because it was up 20%, and I told him to do a merger. I gave him a couple names, and I said, if you do a merger with either of these companies without a premium, just basically give your company away to this other company. You're going to make that other company so accretive that your shareholders aren't going to lose anything. And there's a couple names out there. I told him, I said, just give these guys a call and talk to them. I mean, because it's so accretive, because it's so cheap. I mean, these silver companies are so cheap. So the time to do this type of a deal is now, when everybody's cheap, and silver prices are going up, and everybody's going to be excited about the deal, and it's basically going to be a win-win for both companies. So maybe he'll do that. But yeah, something's going to happen with Silver X. Absolutely, there's no doubt. They're going to find a way to expand production. I mean, they're only producing 1 million ounces right now, which is ridiculous. And they're sitting on 200 million ounces of silver equivalent. There's a big disconnect there. So they got to find a way to expand production. They have a lot of different ways to do it. They could find a strategic investor. They could do a merger. They could raise debt. Lots of ways, but they're going to make some announcements. I have no doubt. I'm excited about the company because silver prices are going higher, and they got a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, you and I have been talking about both that one and Guanajuato for a while, on and off, because they are higher cost producers. What I will point out to people is that when you get to 40 silver, this is another ball game. Like, if this is sustainable, like gold at 31 to 3,300 was sustainable, these companies are going to rock and roll. They have tremendous leverage, and that was displayed yesterday by Silver X rise in one day on 20% on no news. Like, I mean, some of this stuff is going to move. Don, when you interviewed with a sniper, I don't know him, but that thing moved 25% yesterday in one day, Guanajuato. That ticker for everyone is GSVRF. I have way too many tickers in my head.
I've gotten a big following because I've been doing this for 10 years, and people know who I am now, and so.
Well, in fairness, you started in 2004, so you've been doing it 21 years. But the podcast and the website. That's somewhat more recent. I created the website in 2012. One final thing I'll say, and I'm going to bring this up at Beaver Creek, is the silver. Okay, so silver got above $40 this week. Well, actually, futures got above 40 on Friday, but the spot price was yesterday. If silver can stay above 40, both the September close and the October close, both of those, because both of these are seasonality problems. If it stays above 40 in both of those months, we will close the year above 50, in my opinion. Because if they can't push silver down in September and October, it's going to be November and December are just going to be rocket ships. This is going to be so we could easily. The key is going to be the next 8 weeks. But if silver can't get pushed down here back below $40, I think this is kind of the Katie bar the door scenario here. And I also think that the S&P
is going to hit some headwinds here soon, and so it's going to be S&P and silver, S&P and silver. I mean, those are the two things. But of course, I always say silver doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is gold. But if silver closes above 40 the next month ends, that means gold's doing really well. And gold up $50 yesterday, up $20 today. Gold is leading, up over 30% for the year. I think silver's just coming along. So gold needs to remain strong, but silver needs to maintain this $40 level.
Yeah, I mean that's a big what if, right? And we don't know what the answer is. I mean, we're recording this on September 3. We're literally 2 weeks away from the Fed on the 17th. That is going to be important. We've got a couple of other data points that will be important along the way. We've got non-farm payrolls on September 5th. I think that'll be a big one. And then CPI is somewhere in there. I can't remember what day it is on the 9th, 10th, 11th or something. But those two things are going to be watched by the Fed, because you just saw Jerome Powell, since our last interview, Don, come out and be quite dovish. At least that's how it was interpreted at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And now the ante has been raised, correct? I mean, this is not, you cannot not deliver on September 17th, or else the broad market, like you're talking about, the S&P, for that matter, miners. I mean, a lot of things are vulnerable if we don't get a Fed that's going to be accommodative on the 17th, in my opinion.
All right. The reason gold is up this week and the reason the 30-year is up this week is because of inflation. Because the Fed pivoted away from fighting inflation, and inflation is trending higher.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why those are up. So in other words, Powell made a strategic decision, a risky one. And I've been saying this, is that he has no good choices. There's no more good choices for the Fed. So this is a bad choice, but he didn't have any good choices. And he's going to continue to be making bad choices from this point forward. It's going to be a train wreck. The train's going down the track too fast, and it's just going to fall off the tracks. It's just a matter of how long it takes. It could take a month. It could take 6 months. I do think it'll be under Powell's leadership here. Powell leaves in April or May, and I think the train falls off the track before Powell leaves, is my expectation.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Don, as always, we really appreciate your insights. We're going to be presenting together at Beaver Creek September 9th in 6 days. I think we're the first or second people to speak. There's only 13 speakers this year, so you can knock out two of us in one shot and hear more of this macro back and forth. We'll then be 8 days before the Fed meeting, so we'll get at least the non-farm number under our belt but before then, and see how this market progresses. But it's very exciting times, Don. Let's just leave it on a positive note, right? Like, a lot of our followers and clients have made a ton of money here in the last few months. And all I can say is you need a professional like Don or myself to help you stay focused in a market like this, right? Because this sector will buck the best investors. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. I have $50-100 million net worth clients that come to me and have no clue about how to approach our sector. They own physical gold, they own physical silver, but they don't understand how to buy miners, especially the juniors. It's extremely hard. So, I would suggest take a look at our websites. Don has more of a research website, goldstockdata.com. Mine, FenneckConsulting.com, is more focused on real-time emails that you receive pretty much on a daily basis from me directly about things like we're talking about. Like when the Fed talks at Jackson Hole, we literally told people right away, this is bullish for our sector. When August 1st happened with the non-farm payrolls miss, we said this is bullish for our sector, and both of those were correct positionings. And if followers took our advice and bought stock August 1st or whenever Powell spoke, around the 21st, they're making a lot of money through August into September here, and so are we. So we're having a great year. We're having our second best year ever. We hope you guys will take a look at our website, FenneckConsulting.com. Check out Don's. I've been a fan of his now for 4 years. It really helps me to get a deeper dive on stocks. He follows about 850 gold and silver names. And that's it for now. Thanks a lot for joining us.